Welcome to Jerez for round 3 of the races of a Certain Vintage Opala series. Poleman Javid faces a fishy championship rivalry with Dom Payne in 4th alongside RCV's Muzza and MTG. Let the biff and bash begin now. Green, 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 the lights are out and these heavy V8 beasts are unleashed.
Muzza gets a brilliant launch off the line there, Martin. He expertly manages the rear wheel spin, completely jumping past Javid into turn 1. That is textbook throttle application in these Opalas.
Absolute disaster for Tomo, retiring immediately. Meanwhile, our fierce title protagonists Dom and Javid are already getting their elbows out. This championship battle is brewing into an incredibly spicy Spanish showdown.
The ambient track temperatures are scorching today, but Dom Payne sending that early chat message was genuinely bizarre, saying it is smelling slightly fishy out there. I'm not entirely sure what aerodynamic advantage fermented seafood provides, but it is incredibly fascinating stuff.
And Dom pounces, he slices past Javid for 3rd place with absolute precision. Javid looks completely out of sorts behind the wheel, like he is wrestling a greased pig in...
Look at Javid dipping into the grass. The telemetry shows incredibly erratic steering inputs. He is frantically complaining over the team radio about that new premium lumbar support cushion radiating an absolutely foul odour.
Hold on a minute, Dom. Gifted him that exact cushion earlier this week. Why on earth is Javid violently gagging over the open comms? Do not tell me our championship leader actually loaded his rival's physical sim rig with rotting fish. That is hilariously diabolical behaviour right there.
Despite the nauseating distractions, Javid muscles his way past ATI Boy for 5th. His racing line is completely compromised, but pure adrenaline is somehow keeping that heavy Opala pointed in the correct direction.
That poor man, as his force feedback wheelbase bakes in that unventilated room. The hidden fermented tuna is practically cooking. The stench must be weapons grade. Absolute biological sabotage from Dom.
It is truly unbelievable, Martin. I have seen some dark arts in my racing career, maybe adjusting a rear wing or hiding tyre pressures, but literal biological warfare, stuffing a hollowed out cushion full of hot rotting seafood to ruin your rival's focus is just surgically precise evil. I'm honestly deeply impressed.
Dom is laughing hysterically on the Discord channel while filling MTG's mirrors. He is entirely unbothered by his own villainy, aggressively hounding the 2nd place runner. He wants to wrap this championship up with a smelly ribbon on top.
Payne is executing a masterful squeeze here. He is positioning his heavy machine perfectly on corner entry, forcing MTG to adopt an incredibly tight, compromised defensive line. You can literally see the hybrid energy deployment strategies unfolding.
Oh, MTG drops a tyre into the dirt. He is wobbling.
A massive lockup on the rear axle sends him completely around.
Payne catches massive air, claiming 2nd place overall.
Javid violently slams into the stranded car, creating absolute midfield carnage.
Yellow flags wave as MTG limps away, remarkably passing a stationary New Order through chaos.
MTG cleverly snatches 7th place back while ATI Boy struggles for traction.
New Order has binned it, absolute disaster class.
New Order finally gets going again, but his tyres must be completely flat-spotted after that mess. Martin, returning to our championship drama, the telemetry shows Javid is driving entirely with one hand. He is literally pinching his nose closed to block out the foul stench radiating from his seat. That is a guaranteed way to experience severe brain fade mid-corner.
MTG is swarming all over the gearbox of Norchi. He has had a nibble and wants to invite himself into 6th position.
A beautifully surgical manoeuvre from MTG. He takes the inside line, utilising the mechanical grip wonderfully to outbrake Naughty into the hairpin. That requires immense confidence in your brake bias settings, Martin. Unlike Javid, who currently has absolutely zero confidence in anything besides his intense desire to escape his heavily fumigated bedroom before he passes out completely today.
Glancing at the leaderboard, Muzza comfortably leads Dom Payne in 2nd, and nauseated Javid fiercely holds 3rd, followed closely by Rafin-born MTG, Norchi, New Order, ATI Boy and the retired Tomo out there.
Driving a heavy Opala requires 2 firm hands. Martin Javid steering entirely one-handed while clutching his nose is hilariously unsafe. He is completely bypassing logic, relying purely on raw, unadulterated vengeance to hunt down Dom Payne on the dusty Spanish tarmac.
He absolutely refuses to let the diabolical mastermind escape. Javid is practically throwing his massive V8 machine through these sweeping corners with utter reckless abandon. The sheer rage emanating from his smelly sim rig could probably power the entire Jerez lighting system.
Look at this fantastic battle further back. ATI Boy is completely stalking New Order, maximising the slipstream down the straight. They go side by side. It is a brilliant display of giving racing room, cleanly avoiding the type of vehicular violence Jarvib intends to inflict upon Payne shortly.
ATI Boy absolutely refuses to yield any ground to New Order. They are trading some glorious paint back there. It is a beautiful display of old school biff and bash racing action today.
The team communication server is reportedly complete bedlam right now, Martin. Dom is laughing so hard he is barely hitting his apexes, while an actively gagging Jarvib hurls his heavy car around the track with frightening aggression. It is a terrifying masterclass in surviving extreme psychological and biological warfare right now.
Jarvib has locked directly onto the rear bumper of his tormentor. He is riding Dom's exhaust pipes through the sequence. He intends to deliver some highly personalised payback very soon indeed.
Approaching the brutal dry sack hairpin, Jarvib actively decides a braking marker is merely a suggestion. He is literally utilising Dom's rear crash structure as a massive braking assist. That is absolutely horrendous for tyre degradation, Martin. Just appalling.
They are swerving aggressively across the circuit like lunatics. Jarvib refuses to yield an inch to the man who transformed his bedroom into a toxic waste dump. Dom keeps attempting to break the toe, but the infuriated driver behind him is absolutely glued to his gearbox, seeking the most violently dramatic overtaking opportunity possible right now.
Jarvib keeps up this relentless punishing pressure despite his heavily compromised breathing situation indoors.
Dom now looks ahead, sizing up Muzzer for the overall race lead. He wants to sprint away from his nauseated pursuer before Arvik successfully rams him into the grandstands. It is an absolute circus out there on track today.
A massive moment heading into the fast curve as Cito Pons. Jarvib pulls fully alongside, his eyes streaming with tears from the putrid fumes. He violently leans his huge car directly into Dom's door, physically muscling him wide onto the dusty grass. That is pure, unfiltered aggression prevailing over defensive driving, Martin. Absolutely stellar car control today.
Ha! The evil prankster gets punted into the weeds. Now Jarvib sets his watery sights squarely on Muzzer in the lead. The man is driving like a severely possessed seafood demon.
He is completely blinded by the horrific aroma, yet he somehow continues consistently hitting apexes. That takes incredibly high mental fortitude. The immense heat generated by the intense graphic settings is only accelerating the grotesque decay of that hidden fish. It is a terrifyingly brilliant physical endurance test.
Meanwhile, ATI Boy remains absolutely glued to New Order in 8th position. He is looking for any slight mistake to squeeze past. It is proper tight championship racing happening lower down the field.
Race Control has received numerous serious complaints regarding the open radio comms. Jarvib's violent dry heaving and furious screaming are completely distracting the entire grid. The sheer volume of his suffering is inadvertently becoming a highly effective, wide-reaching psychological weapon against everyone else today.
Let us check the standings. Muzzer stubbornly leads Jarvib, followed by Dom, Rafin, Bourne, MTG, Norchi, New Order, ATI Boy and Tomo. Jarvib is currently terrifying Muzzer out of his mind, swerving wildly in his mirrors like a completely deranged fish-fueled missile today.
Jarvib positions his machine meticulously inside Muzzer's slipstream. He needs an immediate overtake here to finally achieve clean air, hoping the increased forward momentum somehow magically ventilates his putrid bedroom quickly.
They go wheel to wheel. Jarvib forces the issue down the inside, but Muzzer robustly shuts the door on him. Absolutely spectacular defensive manoeuvring from the race leader under extreme pressure there.
You can clearly see Muzzer making tiny oversteer corrections on corner exits, knowing there is an actively retching, completely infuriated driver directly behind you. Must be terrifyingly distracting. Jarvib is bypassing any rational racing lines, operating purely as a heavily fumigated, highly aggressive track menace now.
Rafin violently spins out, handing 4th place directly to Daniel Bourne.
A massive slide from Rafin brings out the yellow flags. He completely lost rear traction entering the braking zone, allowing both Daniel Bourne and MTG to effortlessly snatch those precious positions immediately.
Daniel Bourne brilliantly inherits 4th spot. This ridiculous tuna scandal is inadvertently causing massive shockwaves throughout the entire racing grid. Drivers are completely losing their minds listening to the sheer auditory horror unfolding over the open communication channels out there in this race.
Jarvib refuses to relent. His tyres must be screaming for mercy after these relentless, jagged steering inputs. He is leaning incredibly hard on the front left tyre, frantically trying to discover an alternate line past a stubbornly defending Muzzer today.
He is swarming all over him. Javib's car is practically attached to the gearbox of the race leader. He wants to rip that position away using sheer willpower and toxic fumes alone. Muzza is fighting valiantly, but the relentless fish-fueled fury might prove completely unstoppable in this blistering Spanish heat.
Javid deliberately alters his braking point, presenting his nose in Muzza's mirrors to trigger a defensive reaction. That is a brilliantly executed classic manoeuvre, despite operating under immense biological distress right now.
The man is actively nauseated, but his right foot remains firmly pinned to the floorboards. His absolute vengeance against Dom Payne has completely overridden his human survival instincts. This is the most grotesquely spectacular driving performance I have ever witnessed.
Javid practically nudges the rear bumper of Muzza entering turn 1.
He sends it down the inside. They rub doors heavily through the apex, but Javid successfully wrestles the lead away from Muzza. The fumigated madman has incredibly taken first position. Overall, that was an absolutely breathtaking demonstration of pure, violently aggressive Opala racing magic right there.
Rayfin officially reaches his pit box after that disastrous spin earlier. He likely needs fresh rubber and possibly some minor suspension tweaks to correct whatever caused that massive loss of grip. His mechanics are certainly earning their wages, attempting to salvage a decent result from this chaotic race today.
Oh dear, Rayfin is lingering stationary inside the pit box. His crew must be investigating severe structural damage from that wild excursion into the Spanish scenery. It seems the putrid chaos surrounding our leaders has completely infected the lower midfield strategy today. What a disaster there.
Muzza is not giving up easily. He is meticulously trailing the nauseated race leader, aggressively hunting for an immediate counterattack. He knows Javid cannot possibly maintain this frantically flawless pace while simultaneously fighting off extreme nausea inside his home simulator.
Muzza weaves aggressively, desperately trying to disrupt the concentration of our severely distracted leader. Javib's virtual mirrors are full of angry Opala, while his real physical nose is full of rotting Spanish tuna. It is a spectacular dual reality championship battle unfolding perfectly right before our very own completely amazed eyes.
As Javid valiantly leads Muzza and Dom, MTG, Bourne, ATI Boy, Norche, New Order, Rayfin and Tono complete the standings. Muzza is expertly exploiting the slipstream, carefully preparing an aggressive lunge momentarily right now.
Incredible scenes. The team radio reveals Javid frantically cracked a bedroom window open while blasting down the back straight. However, that pungent fermented tuna smell is now escaping into his hallway quickly.
Yes, his open microphone is picking up domestic chaos. You can audibly hear his furious wife angrily shouting about the unbearable putrid stench rapidly consuming the entire upper floor of their house.
This diabolical prank might beautifully backfire. Javid is currently driving the absolute race of his life, entirely powered by furious vengeance and intensely nauseating adrenaline-fueled spite.
Muzza spectacularly drops it into the grass. He is completely distracted by the hysterical radio arguments echoing in his headset. Dom and Javid trading absolutely ferocious verbal insults mid-corner has finally caused Muzza to overheat his tyres.
Dom is proudly shouting it is a premium cushion over the team frequency. Javid's only reply is a violently loud retch directly into his microphone. You cannot ride this absolute madness today.
With his heavily overworked gaming computer constantly pumping hot exhaust air directly onto that hidden fermented tuna, the temperature inside that small bedroom has literally transformed it into an active biohazard zone.
Yet somehow, despite practically choking on putrid fish vapor, the man continues setting absolutely blistering purple sectors. He is fundamentally redefining the boundaries of human endurance through sheer unadulterated championship spite today.
Rayfin officially retires his damaged Opala in the pits. I suspect he simply wanted to quickly escape this bizarre auditory nightmare and avoid listening to another single lap of intense gagging now.
This controversial tactic has massively divided the entire virtual paddock. Half the grid is applauding Dom's hilarious psychological warfare, while the other half furiously attempts to file official stewarding complaints about utilizing biological weapons during a championship event. It is a spectacularly unprecedented situation unfolding beautifully on track today.
Reaching the halfway mark, Javid consistently posts 2-minute flat lap times while literally holding his breath through the sweeping right-handers to avoid inhaling. That requires magnificent core strength right there.
Hold everything, I'm catching a glimpse of Javid's live streaming webcam right now. There's a very strange fast-moving shadow darting aggressively across his darkened bedroom floor. What is that?
Oh my goodness, Martin.
He previously cracked that window open for desperately needed ventilation, but that incredibly pungent fermented fish odour has seemingly attracted a hungry neighbourhood stray cat inside right now.
It absolutely is a massive, wildly aggressive orange tabby cat, has fully breached the simulator perimeter. It is actively hunting down that rotting tuna hidden deeply inside his lower lumbar cushion now.
Jarvib is frantically shouting at the feline intruder while simultaneously attempting to hit his critical braking zones at over 100 miles per hour. This multitasking requirement is completely unbelievable right here.
The hungry beast is aggressively sniffing the actual aluminum extrusion of the simulator rig. This bizarre championship crisis is rapidly escalating into pure, unadulterated absurdity. He cannot simply pause a live race.
Dom is literally weeping with uncontrollable laughter over the team communication channel. I guarantee his diabolical master plan never accounted for random feline intervention. He inadvertently created the ultimate racing distraction today.
How on earth is Jarvib still leading this motor race whilst actively fending off a furious, intensely fish-crazed stray cat? This man deserves an absolute knighthood for this sheer bravery today.
This intense title rivalry has completely transcended traditional virtual racing. It has seamlessly transformed into a terrifying, full-blown survival horror game for poor Jarvib. He is battling tyre wear, fierce rivals, nausea, and now a very hungry predator inside.
Jarvib incredibly leads Muzzer, Dom, MTG, Born, Norchi, ATI Boy, Rafin, New Order and Tomo now.
Yellow flags deployed. Norchi has suddenly come to a grinding halt on the circuit. He seems completely stranded out there, gifting 6th place directly to a very grateful ATI Boy. You really have to wonder if the bizarre comms channel screaming caused him to simply lose focus and spin out in the heavy braking zone.
Meanwhile, MTG decides he has had enough and dives straight into the pit lane.
MTG successfully navigates into his pit box. This is a crucial strategic moment. His mechanics immediately jump onto the car, swapping tyres and fueling him up for this final frantic sprint now.
MTG accelerates out of the pits, but Daniel Bourne comes roaring past on the main straight to confidently snatch that position away. Brilliant tactical racing from Bourne. He kept his head completely down, entirely ignoring the chaotic feline and fermented fish drama infecting the communication service, quietly maximising his overall pace to capitalise on these very crucial mid-race pit stops today.
Back to Jarvib's webcam. The orange tabby is now dangerously pacing around his heavily utilised pedal set. One tiny misstep by that cat could inadvertently apply the brakes mid-corner right now.
Jarvib is blindly kicking his left leg outward, desperately trying to aggressively shoo the furry beast away from his throttle, but the cat is standing absolutely firm, completely undeterred by the shouting. It wants that premium fermented tuna hidden inside the seat cushion, and it will not be denied here today.
Muzzer ruthlessly seizes this momentary distraction. He expertly gets a massive run out of the final corner, pulling alongside Jarvib down the main straight, pure racing instinct.
They go wheel to wheel towards the hairpin. Muzzer dives incredibly deep on the brakes, but Jarvib remarkably holds his nerve. He physically swats the cat away with one hand, whilst perfectly modulating the steering with the other, bravely fighting back to retain his glorious race lead. What an utterly spectacular, wildly unpredictable driving performance from Jarvib right there.
Muzzer immediately tucks back into the slipstream, refusing to let the highly distracted race leader escape.
Huge development. Both leaders unexpectedly dive into the pit lane completely side by side.
They perfectly hit their marks. The mechanics swarm both Opalas simultaneously. This incredibly tense synchronized pit stop sequence will massively dictate who emerges victorious in this bizarrely fascinating Spanish Championship showdown today.
Incredible footage while the virtual car is being fueled. Jarvib physically leaps from his real-world rig. He is desperately trying to violently rip that putrid lumbar cushion out and throw it away right now.
Daniel Bourne safely navigates his heavy machine down the pit entry.
Bourne hits his pit box cleanly. Meanwhile, Jarvib incredibly maintains his narrow overall lead over Muzzer, exiting the pits. Dom Payne lurks ominously just 3 seconds behind them, smelling blood and fermented tuna out there.
He failed completely, Martin. The massive orange feline has aggressively claimed the seat. It is now stubbornly perched directly atop the stinky cushion, aggressively defending its incredibly pungent, highly prized territory there.
This poor man, he is desperately trying to fend off a fiercely determined Muzzer on the digital tarmac, while simultaneously engaged in intense physical hand-to-paw combat inside his bedroom today.
Daniel Bourne is demonstrating excellent situational awareness by quietly settling into 4th place. He He recognises the incredibly volatile nature of the leaders right now. He wisely intends to remain safely outside this bizarre biological blast radius and simply collect any podium pieces that inevitably fall his way here today.
Mazza absolutely refuses to concede this race victory. He is utilising every single inch of available track limit, aggressively bouncing his heavy car over the curbs to stay attached to Avib's bumper. He must realise the leader is physically compromising his own driving posture to successfully avoid being brutally scratched by an angry orange feline right now.
The standings currently show Jarvib leading Mazza, followed by Dom MTG Born, ATI Boy, Naughty, Rafin, New Order and Tomo. Mazza is completely glued to Jarvib's slipstream, hunting for a decisive opening right here.
Mazza relentlessly keeps piling on the pressure, completely unaware his opponent is actively fighting a desperate battle for pure survival. Jarvib's headset microphone just broadcasted a horrifically loud hiss, followed closely by a terrifyingly authentic scream. This is no longer merely virtual motorsport, it is an incredibly brutal cage match today.
Despite the audible chaos echoing across the team radio, Mazza maintains incredibly sharp focus on the immediate racing line. He consistently hits his braking markers perfectly, maximising his corner exit speeds to stubbornly remain securely within the vital aerodynamic toe of the heavily distracted race leader ahead. Right now,
Mazza locks directly onto those rear bumper exhaust pipes. He is actively forcing Jarvib to constantly monitor his virtual mirrors while simultaneously dodging real-life claws inside his pungent bedroom right now.
And look at the timing screens, Martin. Dom Payne is rapidly closing that 3-second gap. He clearly smells blood in the water, or perhaps more accurately, he smells heavily fermented Spanish tuna out there.
Mazza absolutely refuses to back down from this ferocious battle. He continues furiously hounding Avib through every single sweeping sector. It is an incredibly beautiful display of relentless driving aggression, wonderfully juxtaposed against the utterly ridiculous feline-induced domestic nightmare unfolding live on camera inside the heavily fumigated home simulator of our actively screaming race leader right here today.
Dom Payne officially catches the leading duo. He is now actively stalking Mazza, cleverly observing the intense defensive lines Jarvib is currently forced to adopt. Payne is brilliantly letting them heavily degrade their tyres before executing his final masterful championship strike right now.
Dom wants to snatch second place quickly. He violently throws his massive car up the inside under heavy braking, brilliantly trying to spook Mazza into a messy lockup. The absolute sheer audacity of the man who successfully triggered this entire toxic feline crisis is completely staggering to watch today.
Payne maintains his exceptionally aggressive stance. He expertly rides the outer curves, attempting to discover better mechanical traction on corner exit. He desperately needs to dispatch Mazza quickly if he genuinely wants to capitalise fully on Jarvib's escalating domestic feline nightmare before the checkered flag drops out there today.
Incredible multi-car action. Mazza lunges aggressively towards the lead, but Dom Payne practically attaches his front bumper directly to Mazza's rear crash structure. It is a spectacular three-way championship train speeding rapidly toward the final laps. Jarvib somehow maintains control amidst the horrific feline scratching happening indoors right now.
Dom seamlessly utilises the powerful aerodynamic draft, positioning his heavy machine perfectly for an imminent attack. He meticulously manages his tyre temperatures while forcing Mazza to adopt heavily compromised, defensively tight lines through these crucial sweeping high-speed sections today.
Dom wants that second place immediately. He is violently swerving inside the mirrors, desperately trying to mentally break his opponent. He knows perfectly well that the incredibly stinky championship leader up ahead is currently highly vulnerable to late overtakes today.
A beautifully executed manoeuvre. Mazza pushes slightly too hard into the braking zone, dropping a vital wheel completely onto the dusty grass. He slides wide, allowing Dom Payne to effortlessly glide past on the preferred inside racing line. That was purely surgical patience, finally paying off spectacularly for our highly controversial, incredibly mischievous championship mastermind right out there today.
And just like that, the evil genius locks directly onto his primary target. Dom is suddenly right behind the man he intentionally poisoned with a putrid seafood cushion. Jarvib's radio channel is currently broadcasting absolute furious screaming as the angry tabby cat violently attacks his unprotected shins. This is pure unadulterated racing cinema unfolding here right now.
Reviewing the standings, Jarvid miraculously leads Dom, Muzza, MTG Born, ATI Boy, Norchi, Rayfin, New Order and Tomo. The championship leader is now heavily utilising the slipstream to completely maximise his final attack today.
Dom clears Muzza brilliantly. The diabolical architect of this entire ludicrous biological incident is now actively hunting down his heavily traumatised target. Jarvid is swerving frantically on track while physically battling a feral feline beast indoors. This is the greatest, most chaotic championship finale ever witnessed absolutely anywhere today.
Muzza stubbornly refuses to capitulate entirely. He rapidly gathers his heavy Opala together, firmly reattaching himself directly to Dom's gearbox. He intends to heavily capitalise if the leaders spectacularly collide right now.
Incredible team radio updates. That violently determined stray cat has completely bypassed his legs and is now actively clawing directly at Jarvid's lower lumbar area, desperately seeking that hidden fermented tuna prize. He is literally being eaten alive indoors today.
Muzza beautifully utilises his hybrid deployment to remain extremely close. He knows perfectly well that Dom's complete focus is currently aggressively fixated entirely upon mentally breaking the heavily distracted race leader today.
Get it off me! Jarvid furiously screams across the completely open communication network. Dom is practically weeping with hysterical laughter behind the wheel, absolutely adoring every single second of this madness today.
Only a few highly critical minutes remain upon the timing screen. Can Jarvid miraculously defend his narrowing lead against both Dom's relentless aerodynamic pressure on track and an increasingly vicious, fiercely determined orange tabby cat violently attacking his physical body right here today?
Dom practically invites himself directly into the rear seat of Jarvid's heavily compromised Opala. He is firmly attached to the bumper, preparing a massive championship-defining lunge momentarily into the hairpin today.
Dom flawlessly positions his heavy machine precisely where it causes maximum visual distraction. The immense pressure inside both virtual and physical realities is rapidly boiling over, severely degrading tyre life and fundamentally testing absolute human psychological endurance today.
Dom fully engages the powerful slipstream down the lengthy back straight. He pulls completely out heavily, intending to decisively outbrake the wildly swerving, fiercely gagging race leader entering the braking zone today.
Look at those wildly erratic telemetry spikes. Jarvid's steering inputs are completely chaotic because he is physically leaning his actual body away from the aggressive feline strikes mid-corner. This completely destroys any chance of maintaining a smooth aerodynamic profile.
Muzza absolutely refuses to abandon this incredible fight. He stays rigidly glued to Dom's heavy rear bumper, silently hoping this bizarre cat and mouse game quite literally results in a spectacular double retirement, gifting him an entirely unexpected, completely miraculous race victory at the very final moment out there.
Muzza is meticulously managing his hybrid energy deployment reserves by quietly stalking the squabbling leaders. He patiently ensures he retains maximum electrical boost capability for any potential opportunistic lunge exiting the incredibly vital high-speed final sequence of fast corners.
Muzza seamlessly tucks right into that immense aerodynamic void. He is completely strapped into this chaotic roller coaster, ready to brilliantly pounce upon absolutely any mistake made by our battling front runners today.
Oh no, Martin. The live webcam feed unfortunately confirms the furious tabby cat has completely breached the protective foam layer. The notoriously putrid fermented tuna is now fully exposed to the intensely hot exhaust air of the gaming rig. The foul stench must be reaching truly apocalyptic levels inside that tiny, unventilated room right now out there.
Dom Payne is swarming all over him. He practically has his front wheels completely inside Jarvid's virtual trunk. The diabolical mastermind knows his profoundly smelly biological weapon has finally reached maximum effectiveness, seeking immediate surrender from the suffering leader today.
Dom meticulously maintains this heavily relentless pressure, expertly forcing Jarvid to fiercely battle a heavy virtual race car whilst actively fighting a hungry animal indoors.
The leaderboard confirms Jarvid miraculously leads Dom, Muzza, MTG Born, ATI Boy, Norchi, Rayfin, New Order and Tomo. Dom is absolutely hounding the heavily distracted race leader, brilliantly preparing an incredibly audacious overtake.
We can audibly hear Jarvid heavily dry heaving over the team server. The combination of pure physical exhaustion, highly extreme putrid smells, and receiving literal physical lacerations from a wildly furious cat is finally taking an intensely severe toll upon his deeply compromised virtual drive.
Dom completely fills those virtual mirrors. He playfully weaves aggressively back and forth, maliciously taunting his violently suffering rival. He fully understands that Jarvid is currently practically driving entirely blind, completely overwhelmed overwhelmed by noxious fumes and actively attempting to physically punch a heavily...
Dom seamlessly balances his aggressive pressure with meticulous tyre management. He is deliberately waiting for that one inevitable catastrophic physical flinch from Javib to decisively execute his final championship-winning manoeuvre.
We enter the final lap. The webcam reveals the furiously determined tabby cat aggressively lunging directly towards the exposed tuna. Javib screams wildly. Can he miraculously survive this completely absurd biological siege and successfully secure...
Dom expertly positions himself for a decisive attack approaching the final complex. He knows Javib's concentration is utterly shattered. He merely needs to cleanly outbrake his nauseated opponent while avoiding any wildly erratic defensive swerves caused by feline interference.
They violently rub paint through the penultimate corner. Dom vigorously attempts to squeeze his way past a screaming Javib.
Javib suffers a massive oversteer moment right there.
The cat strikes. Javib flinches, violently snapping sideways, allowing a laughing Dom to snap.
An absolutely ruthless display of psychological brilliance. Payne powerfully accelerates out of the final corner to claim victory today.
A deeply traumatized Javib miraculously nurses his battered Opala home into second place. He desperately needs immediate medical attention, a heavy rabies vaccination, and a highly powerful industrial room deodorant.
Dom purely needs to smoothly navigate the final stretch safely. He completely orchestrated this bizarre biological chaos entirely from his own comfortable simulator, ultimately successfully breaking his fierce title rival using absolutely nothing but a hollow cushion, hot fermented tuna, and pure sinister tactical genius today.
He rounds the absolutely final corner. Dom Payne completely executes the most diabolically evil championship masterstroke in racing history, entirely utilising a fish-hungry stray cat to successfully secure this absolutely chaotic
Dom victoriously crosses the finish line to take the checkered flag. An incredibly controversial yet undeniably effective strategy, flawlessly executed to absolute perfection.
Javib successfully limps across to secure a highly traumatic second place, completely exhausted, whilst Muzza comfortably rounds out the podium, finishing in a very respectable third overall.
MTG consistently kept his nose extremely clean throughout all the surrounding madness, beautifully managing his heavily worn tyres to successfully cross the finish line in fourth today.
What a fabulously diabolical drive from Dom Payne. He brilliantly manipulated both the virtual and physical dimensions to firmly conquer his opponents.
Daniel Bourne solidly finishes a lonely fifth over 30 seconds adrift, but crucially surviving this absolutely absurd Spanish endurance test completely physically unscathed today.
ATI Boy successfully brings his heavy machine home in sixth position. He drove a wonderfully sensible race, expertly navigating entirely around the absolute trail of virtual tears and horribly smelly, heavily clawed destruction violently left directly within Javib's incredibly turbulent...
Following significantly further behind, Clinton Norchi finally crosses the line over a minute adrift in seventh. It was clearly a heavily compromised race, but securing vital points after experiencing such wildly chaotic midfield comms chatter is absolutely a commendable recovery effort right.
What a totally unbelievable victory. The virtual paddock is absolutely stunned. They genuinely cannot believe biological warfare is apparently legally permitted. But you honestly must applaud Dom Payne's entirely ruthless, highly unorthodox ingenuity. He successfully broke his fierce rival completely.
Thank you for watching this madness. Please tune in next week for more action.